Links, John Channel here over. Subscribe. Thanks for Vegan, LG, everyone over on those other links. Y'all doing the Lord's work over there. So this title could be fixed with a quick amendment. James Gunn explains why this globalist Bolshevik propaganda fatigue exists, because it's just a bunch of diverse race swap pandering and virtue signaling to a bovine placid soy slop sports ball prawn high fructose corn syrup enjoyers, who I guess are finally getting. We've taken the mask off to show our forked tongues and scaly skin, and people are kind of finally seeing what's behind the curtain, and they're dipping out. And our movies, both DC and Marvel, are not doing as well as they should do. That would be a more honest title, but you're not going to get that in Hollywood. So James Gunn, he's the guy who had a bunch of tweets from a couple of years ago about how he likes to be in adult situations with children. They're just the most horrific things imaginable, and at a different time, in a different universe, different timeline, a better America, things would be different. So Hollywood fatigue, okay, that's whatever you say, vermin. So this idiot, like all the other idiots in Hollywood, and let me just get started by saying that Hollywood is over. That's kind of the précis of the story is like, really, that's not a tinfoil hat, basement dwelling, hyperbolic statement. Look at the past 5 years and let me know if you come to a different conclusion. People can be wearing tinfoil hats and still be hitting 90%. Correct. The thing is, if you're to the left of the bell curve, you might still love Hollywood because it's got the fast moving CGI. The Transformers of movies. I always use the great example is that Megan Fox running across a desert, which is just a green screen room, presumably, and she's got her boobs bouncing, and there's robots in the background. It's like, that's a perfect movie for an international audience because the dialogue translation doesn't really matter. It's just a hot chick running around. And then this guy's got a car and he's doing rally car jumps on all this kind of nonsense. And there's robots just going crazy. It's like, yeah, that's a really fun movie for what it is. Just a popcorn movie. You've got hot chicks and you got robots. Okay, I'm on board with that. You're not trying to be anything else. But Hollywood has gotten away even from that. You get resting bitch face or wooden face Brie Larson and Scarlett Johansson, who's like two 30, 40-year-old chicks, soccer moms who are just angry at the world and who are not fun. Who are not fun like the earlier versions of Scarlett Johansson. So if you're not drooling, begging for more soy slop prawn sports ball, if you're starting to awaken, as many people are, even on Twitter, you're seeing base levels are slowly creeping up on Twitter, then Hollywood is over for you. And yeah, fair enough. Every so often, something's going to slip through the cracks. I will concede that. But it's going to be pretty rare. In fact, if you'd like to mention a recent movie that you think is okay, I can probably tell you why it sucks. And I don't mean that like a subjective point of view. I mean like I can point out stuff in the movie that I think you'll miss. And if you think about it, I think you're going to agree with me. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, I legitimately think I can point out things and you go, oh, let me think about this, and come back and go, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't see that. Because when you get the They Live glasses on and you just never take them off, you see it and you go, oh, wasn't that confirmation bias? Confirmation bias exists for sure. It's true. People do not like to change their mind even when presented with facts, but not all people are like that. And I can back that up by going, well, here's these objective pieces of data. You can analyze it for yourself. Anyway, so people used to do this with comics with me, and I could always point out the cultural Marxist propaganda that slipped past them. And they always, a lot of time they'd mention Immortal Hulk. I'm like, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm very familiar with that series. And let me point out issues 1 and 11. You need to find them online for reference. You can find them and go read those a little bit more carefully, think about them, and then come back and admit that I was right. So a month ago, some people in the globo-parasite media started to write articles about superhero fatigue because the thing is, it just couldn't be avoided. Both Disney and Warner Brothers had serious amounts of bombing movies and underperforming movies for the past 5 years or so. I mean, to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars in losses. Yeah, the audience isn't fatigued exactly. That is Disney Hollywood copium. That doesn't tell us the whole story. But, nice of you to deflect. We have woke fatigue. So what's wrong with these type of films? Well, race swapping is wrong. Race swapping is a hard no from me, which means that all these... and the thing is, you talk to these people who go, so can we discuss these without straw man deflection or ad hominem? And they look at you like, of course I'm an adult, I can discuss this. I go, okay, this woke cancer propaganda and race swapping. I'm not on board with that. Oh, well, okay, what you're about to do is a straw man argument. And it's also a deflection because it's not probative and relevant to the central core of what I just said. I'm telling you why a person is not on board with the films, and you're attacking the person who said the words, not attacking the argument, because you can't. It's like that's why one person, and keep in mind I represent millions of people, is not on board with the films, the race swapping and the diversity and all that kind of cancer, all the cultural Bolshevik cancer. And you go, oh, that's not real. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's the perception, the subjective perception of the person who's not paying for the movies. That's the only thing that matters, is why they're not watching it. You can't convince them it's not real. It's like they're telling you, like, well, here's the examples and race swapping. It's like, we feel this is an issue for us. Like, you don't have a counter argument to that, so they have to straw man, deflect, and ad hominem and call you so you're an istophobe. It's like, I don't agree with those words, because those words in and of themselves are just a way to manipulate NPCs through these cultural Bolshevik techniques. Those words aren't real. These words within 100 years that are all suddenly cropped up, yeah, they're Bolshevik control terms. They're not real. But I accept that you said them, and now let's move on to these films. Like, oh, I can't move on to the films because all I know how to do is ad hominem. Anyway, so no, race swapping's a hard no, which means like Hollywood is not for me anymore at all, or maybe for you also, which is fine, because not supporting Hollywood is a good thing, because they're a bunch of demons. There's plenty of books to read, or you can watch Hollywood decades ago, and there's plenty of fun movies that I guarantee you've not seen them all. So what woke means? Loosely anti-white racism, where people are always fighting the evil Russians, Germans, or the English. You know, there are other peoples around the world that you can no, just they have to have green or blue eyes. Really? Yeah, the correlation's like 90%. Every once in a while, maybe the hazel will sneak in there, but it's gonna be green or blue eyes. Like, it's some kind of Nordic stereotype. Yeah, basically. Oh, okay. So you're in Africa. Oh, okay, cool. So you're fighting the South African diamond smugglers. Are they blonde? Well, yes, they just happen to. So you're in China and you're dealing with this. So it's an Englishman who's running around China being chased by the actor playing the. Okay, so it's an Englishman is the bad guy in China. Yeah. Like, really? Yeah, I forget the name of the movie, but they made some movie about set in China, and I looked at it and I go like, okay, even before I look at the details, it's gonna be two Europeans, right? The bad guy has to be European. And then I look at the details like, oh, it's an Englishman running around through China as the antagonist. Like, yeah, it's of course it is. It's a frequency that reoccurs so often, you might say that every time it reoccurs. Okay, so Hollywood will make these movies about German people who commit large-scale Malamensay events, and then when you point out how ridiculous it is, they call you istophobic for noticing that the Germans don't actually do that. Or, oh, hey, what's this? English militias in the warm, sandy place with the camels are actually the real problem? That little bit of cultural Bolshevism was from Black Adams, which, of course, didn't make any money, I don't think. Or it's all Pox Walks people who are in that camel zone, but the bad guys were English. Are they in the UN or something? Because the UN is not English people usually. They're usually going to be African people for some reason. They're going to be the blue helmets. Or it's going to be a really mixed group of people who then proceed to abuse the people they're supposed to take care of course. Or was it like was it like a BlackRock security firm or something? We don't know. They're just English people who are the bad guys. Okay, would you like to flesh that out a little bit? Because in 2008 Iron Man, the bad guys were people from that region. They looked like they fit in there. It's like it was a little bit of realism for you. Probably which is why 2008 Iron Man did better than 2022 Black Adams. So the inverse is when the Norse House of the Gods movie from Thor, that pantheon, you've got an African. Why would you disrespect the European religion this way? Would Hollywood do it to their own belief system? Would they have Africans serving Moloch in hell? Yes, they literally worship the Lord of the Flies. If it's filth and corruption, then they exalt it and hold it holy. The Norse pantheon is literally still worshipped today. In fact, it's a growing religion. And to be fair, it is spreading out from its origins. But no, the original stories only had European-based characters in it. Like, why would they have anyone else in it? That's just globalist Hollywood propaganda from these demon people. Have you ever considered that Hollywood is the great Satan and then they actually are biblically evil. Some people have been trying to warn us for decades, but we're so brainwashed by Hollywood that we refuse to actually look at them. Now they're so mask off, it's impossible to ignore their degeneracy. Black Widow or Suicide Squad Part 2 was a really good example of a rice cake movie. You bite into it, it's just there's nothing there. They're not funny because humor isn't allowed in a Bolshevik framework, and they're not sexy chicks running around in skin tight bodysuits with their boobs, jiggling around, hanging out and whatnot. It's nothing. It's just a bunch of 40, 50-year-old soccer moms on like those green screen room motorcycles where you see them bending over and they're like, they're in a green room with a fan blowing them. There's somebody holding sticks on the side bending the motorcycle over as they're. It's just like you've seen it a million times, and they jump off the bike and do a flip and land on a car. It's just so friggin' stupid. It's like, so she's some like 40-year-old. Don't get me wrong, she's good looking for her age, and like she's had several kids. It's like, but that's just a soccer mom. That's not really the character you want for a Hollywood. It's like she was known for her sex appeal when she was younger, and she was jiggling all over the screen. Like she was fine being used for her sex appeal when she was in her 20s, but suddenly she changed her mind in her 30s and 40s or whatever after she had a bunch of kids. Anyway, so nothing works. The movies aren't funny, they're not sexy, they're just this rice cake stuff. And the only humor or hatred can be directed, of course, against Europeans, especially Christians, which is going to be an issue because there's no willing suspension of disbelief when the omega of the story is presented simultaneously with the alpha. It's literally at the level of simplicity such that if you see dark and fair on a cover, you know the protagonist and antagonist. The story is told on the cover. You don't need to pick it up, whether it's a movie or a comic. You see movies about the Charlie Manson types of characters, but not about Samuel Little. Or if they made a movie about Samuel Little, they'd race swap him. That'd be the one time they'd race swap somebody from African to European, because most people don't even know who Little is. He's America's #1 monster. Unfortunately, he's non-European, so Hollywood had to ignore him. What's that movie? The book, Grisham book that turned into a movie. I think it's a time to delete people. And both in the movie and the book, Grisham swapped out the character from the real story, of course, to make these monsters in the South look suspiciously like me. And you're like, that's not actually what happened. Why'd you swap out the character? Oh, it all makes sense. And then once it all makes sense, all the pieces start fitting. Anyway, so no, it's not superhero fatigue. Not exactly. Even stories as silly as Marvel and DC have to have internally consistent rules. So what was it, Wonder Woman 84? I'm trying to remember. It was like a South American tribe of Greek warriors who set up camp or something, except that in the movie there's like a United Colors of Bennington approach of actors from all over the world. You throw the downtown LA casting call, you just grab who's ever on the street. You're like, hey, you, Asian lady, African lady, Russian lady, Middle Eastern lady, come on here, you're going to be in this. You're all one tribe of people. You look around like, no, we're not. This doesn't make sense. Oh, what are you, Hugo Boss or something? Yeah, I accept that you called me that name, but let's or phobic or whatever, but let's get to the point. Why is this setting straight out of Frankfurt School Cultural Bolshevism 101? How are these people a tribe when they're not a tribe? Listen. 2 plus 2 can equal 5 sometimes. To say it equals 4 is European supreme, but it does equal 4. What you're saying is nonsense. If you find it nonsense, that's just your istophobicism privilege showing. You're continuing to speak just cultural Bolshevik nonsense. The words you're saying are nonsense. There's no continuing along this path, like in any way, shape, or form, to continue along this Alinskian path where they're saying words that are not in accord with reality, where math is istophobic. Like, you're the what was it, the Dark Tower, the characters in the Dark Tower who just want to destroy because that is their nature, is destruction. Anyway, the thing is, we're tribal. We want to see tribal stories that connect with us. Globalist values are satanic, and whether or not you're religious or not, you can use the Great Satan as a stand-in for like entropy and enthalpy, the example of like order or chaos. Like there are some people who just want to destroy. There's a science fiction has covered this pretty well. David Brin and Greg Bear, Darwin's Radio, kind of vague. That's kind of vague, but like the Uplift War kind of makes me think of it. And there's been other. I wish I could remember the other ones where there's always a test for humanity. Like these. You know what it was? Oh God, who was the guy who wrote the book about the hypercube? Oh, let me get the books on the shelf. Hold on, I can't find it. I think it's McDermott or McDevitt. I've read a bunch of his books, and oddly enough, there's a female protagonist. Hutch or Huxley or something, who's a female protagonist, which I hate. I hate female protagonists for sure. I do love women though, but just because it doesn't work. Like she's the female protagonist. You guys think like, so you're not gonna have kids, get married? Like you should be the love interest. You should have male protagonists because nobody cares if males get deleted because it's like biologically they're not as important. Like you have a female protagonist and she's got these great genetics and she's a hero. It's like, yeah, so this is the time to pass on those genetics. Where like men could do that, they could just be, have a girlfriend at every port and pass on their genetics to hundreds of different women. And that's like, it doesn't matter if, he gets deleted in the heart of a star system or something, but it's like to have a female protagonist never have kids. It's like, oh, that's just a black pill. Why would you write that? But anyway, so this McDermott or Devitt guy wrote these books, and one of the books is sitting on my shelf, but I can't unfortunately find it right now, is about this hyper-intelligent cube that finds organized structures, like 90-degree angles on planets, and goes along, kind of a Borg thing, goes along and destroys these any organized structures. It's a fascinating book, but science fiction has done that for a long time. And I look at the Hollywood machine, and like there are these people who just want to destroy order, just because it's their nature to foment discord. Like the Machiavellian Machiavatians, it is their core programming. You can't change that about them. So anyway, they literally are satanic, however you want to define Satan. They're doing this social re-engineering on this giant Marxist scale. I mean, they're doing it for us, of course, not for them. Or it might be more accurate to say they're doing it to us for their benefit. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks to you very LG, Vegan, everyone else who's on. Subscribe, or buy me a coffee, or the various other links. And I'll see you guys. I mean, as long as I'm on YouTube, I guess I'll be seeing you on YouTube. When I'm not on YouTube anymore, I'll still be on Odyssey, BitChute, Gab TV, and maybe a few others.